Okay, well, next up we're going to be bringing in the startup component of our show, where we get to look at a couple interesting startups, and I want to turn it over to Heidi Esern. She is the director of Dealmaker Media. Dealmaker Media is the producer of the Under the Radar conference. As I said earlier, Fritz, Under the Radar features a whole bunch of startups, and we've entrusted them to bring us some of the hottest startups, and this show's theme is going to be in the area of business intelligence. So Heidi, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us, and why don't you tell us a little bit about the upcoming Under the Radar conference and introduce our first guest.
Great. Thank you, David. As David mentioned, I am Heidi, and I work at a company called Dealmaker Media, where we build relationships through knowledge sharing. Our big conference coming up in April is Under the Radar, where we will focus on the consumerization of IT. It is April 25th and 26th in Mountain View, California. And for Valley View audience members, we'd like to offer a special discount. If you go to undertheradar.com and use the code VVIEW, you will get 10% off our early bird pricing. At Under the Radar, we have selected a whole bunch of very disruptive startups in cloud infrastructure, mobile security, and my personal favorite, big data. Big data is a very hot term right now, but as we all know, it's not the size of the data, it's what you do with it. One Under the Radar company is Chart.io, and they do actually help companies do something with their data. They look at companies' business data that is stored in their databases. This information is transferred to and from their servers and then analyzed. Chart.io operates as the Google Analytics for business data. And today we have David Beyer, the co-founder of Chart.io, to speak a little bit more. David and Fritz, take it away.
Great, thanks very much. Well, David Beyer, we've got you here on the show, and you've been one of the lucky startups to get selected by the Under the Radar conference. We're looking forward to seeing you at the upcoming one in April, but we're here with you now so that our audience can get a really good preview of what it is Chart.io does. So why don't you just tell us, I know that Heidi did a good job of sort of teeing you up, but why don't you give us the sort of elevator pitch of what you do, and then we'll dive into a demo.
Sure, as Heidi mentioned, we are best described as Google Analytics for database data. The same insight that Google offers businesses into their web traffic, we offer into the data in their database. Broadly speaking, we are disrupting the business intelligence market, which is quite massive, the vast majority of which is delivered as on-premise software, which can be very bulky, extremely expensive, can take months, in some cases years, to actually deploy, and has notoriously bad user experiences.
What data sources are you pulling in?
So we're pulling in now from internal data sources like MySQL, Postgres. We have plans for Oracle and SQL Server. And then we plan to expand beyond internal data sources to external SaaS services like Google Analytics, Zendesk, Salesforce, and all the various data sources that companies use.
You know, one challenge when you start hooking to multiple data sources, I think one of the advantages, if I looked at your website, very basic, one-page website where it said that you have a degree in everything from Brown, is that right?
Yes.
I don't know how you'd get that, but okay, we'll go with that. You go in and you discover the schema of the databases that you've got running, as you said, Postgres or MySQL, but then you tease out the most important stuff and you build some dashboards immediately from that.
Absolutely.
But it would seem to me that the minute you have disparate data sources, whether it's Google Analytics, Omniture data that's tucked away in a MySQL database or an Oracle database or something like that, they have different schemas. They're not necessarily tied to each other. That's sort of what business intelligence does, is it kind of emulates the idea of a data warehouse. How are you going to tease that out when the connections between the data are not obvious because it's different databases?
That's a good question. One of the things we actually noticed is a lot of the legacy business intelligence companies spend a lot of time and money building very complex ETL tools into their stack. And in most cases, when you have disparate data sources in your business, you're happy to simply see the visualization of that data or the analysis of that data side by side. You don't necessarily have to go through months and months of joining that data when there in fact might not be a natural join. So we focused on the issue of pulling in those various data sets, making it easy to see them side by side and in context. And then eventually, if you do want to join various data sets, you can use the whole variety and spate of ETL tools out there that basically pull the data together and make it easy to put into one data warehouse.
Now, a lot of companies claim they're going to make it all easy to view, nice dashboards and everything. This is a good way to jump into the demo here,
Sure.
But how are you guys making that possible?
So actually, it would be a wonderful way to show you what we do. In this case, we're using the public data set from stackoverflow.com, which is a Q&A website for software engineers. These darker tabs represent the various data sources that you can connect. They drill down into the tables, and those tables drill down into columns. In this case, we're going to start by looking at posting behavior on stackoverflow.com. Getting started is actually quite easy. All you have to do is drag the post table.
I'm just going to zoom here a little bit.
Drag the post table, and initially we see the results in tabular form. Let's switch to a basic visualization. If you look at this chart, you can see that there's a huge peak around the end of October 2008. That's actually when Stack Overflow launched. And then you see some seasonality around 2009 and the winter holidays of 2010. Let's dig a little bit deeper. And can we zoom out of it? Let's look at those posts which have comments which are highly rated. So we'll drag the score filter, set that greater than, let's say, 15. And now we've regenerated the visualization to pull out only those posts which have highly rated comments. What's actually happening in the background is we're generating a SQL query. So this SQL query then hits the customer's database. We pull out the results, display them on our UI. And interestingly, if you notice where I'm highlighting the join, that's something that takes people quite a lot of time to do. And if you're not that familiar with SQL, joining across various tables is a challenge. We can do that for you automatically.
One of the questions I have on that, and we're almost out of time. I know it seems like we've gone so quickly here, but that doesn't seem very secure.
Yes, that's a good question. When it comes to business data, security is paramount.
We're talking about the fact that they're out on the web, my data's in a database, it's behind my firewall, and now
It's being
it's
transmitted over the web,
requesting
and
data.
it's being stored in the cloud on their systems.
So you have a whole bunch of software as a service business intelligence companies out there that ask companies to send them an entire copy of their database. That is one of the that presents more vulnerability. What we do instead is we connect to customer databases via an extremely secure shell, an SSH tunnel, which is reversed. What that means is that the customer does not have to punch a hole through their firewall. They can keep all their corporate firewall policies intact, and instead they tunnel out to us via the SSH tunnel, which is an extremely secure technology which has been tested for decades. And so that's how we pull in the data.
Okay, well, we're out of time. I want to thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for coming on the show. I want to turn it back over to Heidi, who is going to introduce our next business intelligence startup.
Thanks, David. It is your lucky day because I do have one more startup in big data analytics and information. And this company is MetaMarkets. MetaMarkets also tackles big data problems by using Hadoop and in-memory computing to manage petabyte-sized data sets. And they work with companies to process information very quickly. And they allow companies to very quickly process, query, and visualize their information in milliseconds. And that is very fast. And we are lucky today to have Mike Driscoll, the co-founder of MetaMarkets, here to explain a bit more.
Okay, so thanks Heidi very much for introducing Mike. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So Heidi talked a little bit about Hadoop. She talked a little bit about in-memory. These are technologies that are being more and more frequently associated with big data. And so I guess in-memory is something that you're doing on your site. That's for performance reasons. Hadoop, is that something that's on your site, or does the solution work exclusively with Hadoop data sources? That's the one part that I didn't get.
So Hadoop is part of our stack, and we actually work with the raw data. So we bring in terabytes over close to a petabyte in the last year of data, and Hadoop is part of our solution. Obviously, it's open source, and we run the Hadoop processing as the first step in our data processing.
Okay, so Hadoop and in-memory are features of your business, not necessarily things that people need on their end of the pipe in order to make this happen.
Exactly.
Going back to the question that we asked of David Beyer, what about where the data is kept? Is it kept with you, or is it kept with the customer?
So our customers actually ship us their data into a secure bucket, which we manage. And absolutely, cloud security is a really big piece of our offering, and we've been lucky to conform with European Union regulations. We work with publicly listed companies. Security is critical, but it's possible to do on the cloud.
Okay, we heard what the unique selling proposition, if you will, was for Chartio. What, in your mind, is the elevator pitch, the thing that really makes MetaMarkets different and the reason that people should consider your solutions?
I think the biggest differentiator for MetaMarkets is our speed. Most people who use Hadoop struggle at a certain point to get answers in real time or in human time. And MetaMarkets has developed an in-memory database which, along with our dashboard that is layered on top, allows a business user who doesn't have a PhD to slice, dice, visualize, and analyze their data quickly at scale. So speed is really our selling point.
What is in-memory? What does that mean, just so everybody knows?
In-memory computing means that the data is kept rather than on disk, it's kept actually in DRAM. So Microsoft Excel is fast because all of the data is kept in memory. We do what Excel does, but we do it on the cloud.
And Hadoop deployments and some of the in-memory computing in commodity type servers is relatively inexpensive to do, so why would somebody want to do it in the cloud?
I think the key point here is that in this era of big data, your data is already on the cloud, and your analytics should be there, co-located with your data. The reason why the cloud's a great place is because you have access to scale. The data that we're talking about is too big to sit on any one machine. And so at MetaMarkets, we distribute it across hundreds of servers. So when a query hits, I'll show you our product, we actually distribute that query across hundreds of servers, similar to what Google does for when you do a search.
Why don't you load this up? I'm sorry I lost your browser window there, so we'll have to start it up again. But of course, you're going up against some big players too. Oracle, SAP, IBM, Microsoft. I mean, those are not small competitors. As a startup, how do you, how do you do that?
So I like to call Oracle and some of the other legacy BI tool providers big box retailers, because they're offering boxes, we're offering services. And we think for startups who want to get going quickly, who've got Hadoop running and are looking for analytics, we offer a very enviable price point that they can get involved.
What is that enviable price point, as long as you're saying that?
So we like to price ourselves the cost of a single data scientist. So order of $10,000 a month, but it depends on data volumes.
Okay, why don't you show us how it works?
Sure. So we're looking here at the front page of our RTB exchange information. So if the example here is if I'm a head of monetization for an online publisher, it's really important for me to understand my revenues. And we log in here, we can see in the last week, we've done about $3.5 million of revenue. We can look at our ECPM. And one thing we might want to look at is drill down into a day view and say, okay, how do we do today? We can see we made about $500,000, that's great. Let's take a look at our top advertisers. And what I can do here, and all of these queries are running in real time against our backend. We can do a comparison of these top 3 publishers, and we see a spike here. Let's see if I can pull it over.
And so this is all customer data?
This is all customer data.
Are you also taking feeds from social networks and things like that? Are you able to?
We do actually. We work with, we've actually done some work for the Wikimedia Foundation, looking at engagement of their users as well. So this model is not restricted to just publisher data. It's really any OLAP data fits into this model. So we can see here there's a spike. What I can do is I can share this report with one of my colleagues and say, it looks like we've got something going on with Shovel 3 Media. And the beauty of the cloud is that she can log in and see the same information. It's not a desktop tool like many of our competitors are. Is having a banner day. Let's see that.
And so it sends an email with an image of this?
It sends an email with a link to this.
To that, right.
Exactly. And really the power...
Because things could change. You want to be able to pull up a
real-time.
live version of that, right?
Exactly. And the power is that, there's this big push for data science these days. Companies are struggling with the volume of their data, and they're turning to data scientists. Well, we all know that it's very hard to find people with those skills. What MetaMarkets wants to do is give you data science as a service and put the kind of power that you get by analyzing large-scale data in the hands of a business user.
Well, we're just about out of time, but what customers do you have that are using this? Can you talk about some of them?
Sure. The most public customer to date is the Financial Times. Their head of global monetization uses this tool to effectively justify price increases for their advertising.
Okay, well, Michael Driscoll, CEO, founder of MetaMarkets, thanks for joining us here on Valley View.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck at the Under the Radar conference. And by the way, if you want to go and find out more about the company, you can go to metamarkets.com. Also for Chartio, their website is chart.io.